It wasn't a great day at work, I got to say. So I was Army Airborne for 5 years and then a Navy clearance diver for seven. And in 2009, I was in the harbour in Sydney alongside the Navy base doing a counter-terrorism exercise. And I was on the surface swimming on my back, and a 10-foot bull shark came up from underneath me, grabbed me by my right hamstring and my right hand, and it decided it wanted them more than I did. And I thought that was pretty rude. So I tried to fight back, but this is a 600-pound beast made of muscle in its environment, and it decided to take advantage of me and eat me for breakfast before I even had breakfast. Rough day at work, this one. It's a pretty bad start to it, but I fought back. The shark actually removed my hamstring and removed my hand, and my wetsuit made me buoyant. So I popped to the surface. I'm swimming back to my safety boat with one hand and one leg through a pool of my own blood, just thinking at any second this shark's going to come back and finish me off. But I got to the boat. The boys in the boat, my teammates pulled me in, rendered first aid until the paramedics could get there. And fortunately, I did live through that. And I've gone on to do some pretty incredible things since then.
I was watching Tessa's face while you were describing all that. I mean, I'm sure most of our viewers are feeling the same way. You are describing this in such a sort of matter-of-fact way. Do you think, bearing in mind what you've been through, do you think a lot of our views of sharks are influenced by Steven Spielberg? Is he to blame, do you think?
Well, for a certain generation, I agree, but I don't think Jaws pertains a lot to the younger generation now. I think it's moved on since then, but I think it's more about the media, the newspapers, the clickbait. They put up on the front page, monster lurking our coasts, ready to snatch your children. And nothing could be further from the truth. I've worked with Shark Week on Discovery Channel since 2013 now, and I've taken people like Ronda Rousey, Will Smith, Mike Tyson, and I've taught them how to dive with sharks. I taught Ronda Rousey how to hand feed bull sharks by hand, not with a hand, which is a nice change. But every single time I do that, their perception shifts and changes, and they come out of the water saying, this is the best thing I've ever done. And so getting over that fear, that's pertaining to actually growing as a person and growing our knowledge and getting past those things that the media and Jaws has put in front of us so that we can actually appreciate and respect these animals that are so vitally important to our ecosystem.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm about this, Paul. And the serious message here, though, is that we need to raise awareness about sharks, don't we? Why is that?
Well, sharks are what we call a keystone species. And the best example I can give to this, the best comparison, is kind of like a game of Jenga. You've got your block of bricks, and if you keep removing those blocks from the bottom, eventually the whole system comes tumbling down. And that's what happens with sharks. And we are decimating these animals. I was afraid of sharks in the beginning, and then I learned about them. And there's this old adage, knowledge dispels fear. So the more I learned, the more I realized how little we have to fear from sharks and how much they have to fear from us. And so it's kind of like that Jenga where you start removing this keystone species and everything underneath it starts getting disrupted. The carnivorous fish that they eat, that population explodes. They decimate the herbivorous fish underneath it. The herbivorous fish can't eat the algae, so the algae grows over the reef, suffocates the coral reefs, destroys the whole ecosystem. It's like a chain of events, and eventually all of that ripples down onto us. Okay. And you might be living inland and you might think that, this doesn't pertain to me. But when you think about the fact that we get most of our oxygen from the ocean, it does actually touch base with every single one of us on land.
It does.